Hey everybody, JC here. Welcome to Rebel Soul Fuckery. We're stirring up some fuckery today, you guys. Okay, so let's just dive in. I have another amazing group of women with me today. I'm very happy to share them with you and hear just where this conversation is going to go. We are sitting around my virtual kitchen table. Okay, my virtual office. But anywho, we're sitting here just getting ready to have a great conversation. If you don't know me, as I said, I'm JC. I am the founder of Rebel Soul Fuckery and the host, obviously, of the podcast. I work with ambitious rebels who are truly just really ready to reignite that inner rebel fire within themselves and live a more soul driven life. So that when you get up every morning, you are like, oh, hell yes, I'm excited, instead of dragging yourself out, right? Too many of us have checked all the boxes and have hit the point of going, is that all there is? Crap. I thought there would be more. So I work with you and we move past that, as well as really diving into those signs and synchronicities and how to recognize them and apply them in your life so that things go freaking cool. Okay. Let me pass the baton, though. I can't talk. It'd be great if I could, so that we can get to know these other amazing women sitting here with me today. So as you can tell, we are pre-recording before January when we release this because we have a Christmas tree behind Julia. Julia, will you tell us who you are and what it is you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm so excited to be here. This is a really fun way to do kind of a, a podcast. So I'm Julia. I live in Maine. I'm from the west coast of Canada, but I'm now on the other side of a different country. And I work as a brand voice consultant. So I actually just jotted down a couple notes of what you were saying because it really kind of aligns with the audience that I work with. I recently did my own kind of rebrand, and if you go to my website, you'll see it says brand voice for renegades, and it is it's exactly that. So I really work with businesses that are kind of going against the grain, where they saw something and were like, well, that's not right, or I could fix that, or they saw a gap or saw a problem and really had a cool solution for it and are running with it. So it's helping them really articulate what it is that they do and why it's so cool, and do that in a way that doesn't force them into those boxes, right? Of like, I have to sound authoritative, or I have to sound professional, or I have to sound friendly, or like any of those kind of messaging boxes that we see as best practices. They're really just talking about specific types of voices. And there are so many types to choose from, but most kind of mainstream marketing advice tells you to go in like one of two camps. So it's really helping them to decide what they want their voice to be. A lot of these companies have multiple founders, so it's blending that vision, coming up with a cohesive voice for the business, or helping people have a business that it's just them, but maybe they don't want to burn out with the personal branding, right? They're like,
Yeah, right.
this is me esque, but it's not me. They don't want to put
Yes,
like
that's funny.
all of themselves into their business. They want to have a little bit of that separation while still having that personal brand. So it's helping people really decide like what parts of yourself do you want to bring into your voice, what parts do you want to amplify, leave behind. Like there's so
Love
much
it.
room for play in this, and really giving people a framework to kind of go nuts.
Absolutely love it. Of course I love it because it's for renegades. Like, of course I love it. We all are. That's who comes to me, right? Because I
Yeah.
have mine down pretty darn well. So people are attracted to it, and we repel then the people that we don't fit with.
Yeah.
And that's what the right branding is all about, right? So
Yeah,
super
and it's
amazing.
it's such a fun thing because it is exactly that balance of like, I think most of the conversations around branding are how to like attract your ideal client and attract the people that you want to
Mhm.
work with, is which is part of it, but like repelling the wrong people is
Yeah.
just as fun.
Yeah, I had this. I got to get to introducing everyone else, but I had that conversation with my mom. If she's watching, sorry, mom. But just this morning, because of my rebrand, and she was like, "Oh, how's everyone doing with the fuckery word?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, mom! It's like wildfire." They're all so excited. They're like, "JC, I'm in. I don't even know what it's about, but I'm in. Just tell me
That's
what I need
right.
to do."
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's super cool. Okay, Tasia, I'm going to pass the baton to you.
Hi. Oh, hold on one second. My cat just, he's such a nuisance. He decided to get in the litter box. So like he's rebelling against what I'm trying to do. So if you can
Your
give
cat's
me
like,
like
"This is what I think of you guys today."
yeah, he's like that. Like no, he
I
ignores
didn't notice
me and
him.
then I started getting ready and he was like everywhere. So
That's okay. I didn't hear him. So
okay, he's the center of my world and he hates it when anything else tries to interfere. So my name is Tasia. I have a master's in English and I love stories. I am such a storyteller. And the big thing that I want to do in the world is help elevate the heroine's journey to the place where the hero's journey is now. Like, how many Marvel movies have to repeat the same formulaic bullshit? So, my ultimate goal, I'm building my business. I'm at the very beginning. It's like every painful step, like every baby step. And it's just like, I'm so excited though. And it's just lighting me up like nothing has for years. So it's kind of interesting, like my own like healing heroine's journey that's coming along with my entrepreneur journey. No one told me that the mess was everywhere. I feel like I'm all over the place. Very multi-passionate. Like my original, I was in finance for like 7 years in the stock market, loved it, was there during the recession, the IPO for Facebook, like, and I want to get back to that eventually, but like I've just been on this crazy esoteric journey that has taken me all over the planet. Like I lived in Korea after COVID, the first year after COVID, I think it's 2022. I don't know. I burnt myself out with travel. Like I saw 38 states in 1 year. Like I was just everywhere. And by seeing the states, I had to pass through 2 borders, spend the night, or eat in a restaurant outside the airport. That's how I got credit for it. So it wasn't just like hopping on planes. I spent some time in Puerto Rico, which really was a huge soul awakening for me. Like I went there as a pet sit. And this is like, I know it's all over the place, but this is part of my heroine's journey. And it's just like, it was the moment when things really changed for me because I had had a lot of trauma and I was just like, okay, this is it. Like, this is what life will be. And so I planned on writing a story. And the first night I was there, I met an orthopedic surgeon who also has like a Silicon Valley company. And we talked, like, he wanted me to do some writing for him. It didn't work out, but it was like in that moment I saw a possibility that was like way beyond anything I'd ever seen for myself. And I just remember I like cried, like and then I was really excited and then and then the shadow came up to heal, right? And so it's still a process, but it was like there was this feeling of like I really can be more, and I'm not stuck in the story. I'm not stuck in the shit that's happened. I get to choose. And then I realized I don't want revenge, like in all of the things that have ever gone wrong, because I'm a Scorpio. I'm like a quad Scorpio. I have it's in me. But what I want is to like be so in the ownership of who I am that nothing they did ever gets to define or decide who I am. And I feel that on a bigger level and helping other people determine who they are, like to be self-determined. I love astrology. I love tarot. Like I'm very like into woo, love human design. But I also, at the end of the day, everything I believe is we get to create who we want to be in the world. And that's, and it's really crazy how rebellious that thought really is. Like,
yes, it is. But I love it because you're talking about similar things as Julia was, because instead of being stuck inside this box, and you're talking about being multi-passionate, I hear that, right? If you look at the history of all my businesses and the different independent contracting things I've done, it's wild and crazy. It's like, what? Those things don't even go together, but they do if you look deep enough. So anyways, it's so amazing. So Irene, you're muted. Feel free to unmute. Tell us about you.
Yes, thanks, JC and lovely ladies. I love your cat, Taiza, like so cute. I have a very interesting story about a cat and synchronicities I'm gonna share later. So my name is Irene, or in my mother tongue Spanish, Irene Otero Fernandez. I am Spanish born and raised. Although I lived in a bunch of different countries across the world, I'm currently based in Brazil, where I had a healing center in my house. I'm a holistic therapist and a spiritual gangster with a doctorate of philosophy in linguistics and a master's degree in holistic psychology. So I went for an academic career first, like JC, you were saying, and then Taiza, you were sharing about your story a little bit. I tried to conform in the beginning and do, what we are supposed to do, check all the boxes. But that didn't work out for me. In fact, I was chronically depressed, suicidally depressed, even though I had like a promising career. I was a university professor. and I had like a loving relationship and everything I could theoretically want. And that's when the pandemic hit, and I already had decided I wanted to transition into yoga and therapy. I already had teacher training as a yogic therapist with Ayurveda as well, traditional Indian medicine. I had gone to India and back, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna change my life now. But then the pandemic hit. I was locked down for a year and a half in Italy. And that's when I had to go deeper, look beyond the usual spiritual therapies, the usual psychology, and go really into the occult. And nowadays, I help people heal themselves at such deep level, reconnect their body and mind and spirit, their shadow and their light, because a lot of spiritual people are really comfortable with love and light, but they get more uncomfortable when it comes to really dark stuff that we all have inside of us. That's the shadow work, right?
Yeah.
And that's why
Absolutely.
I really resonate with this soul fuckery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
because
I'm not your fluffy bunnies and rainbows and let's go light some candles and talk and just, which that stuff's good too.
Yes, we can be both.
So,
we're actually both. We're the angel and we're the demon.
So we get to work on both and go. So my dog now, you were mentioning as your cat, Taja, that wants attention. And now my dog is at my door woofing. So I'm going to let you see my gorgeous Phoenix as I step over to let my dog back in. But as we do that, I want to move us forward because I like to keep our episodes so short if possible, and we have to cram it all in. But I want to pass the baton back to Julia. And what did you bring to my kitchen table today that you can share with us? That I don't care if it's funny or some cool synchronicity or whatever, or just some rebellious bullshit, whatever you brought today. We want to hear it. And we absolutely want to hear everybody's, not just Julia's, obviously. And I'm going to go get Jetta while we're at it because Jetta wants to participate.
No, it's so cool to hear the like professional backgrounds and kind of the transition into entrepreneurship. And I think that is it's like becoming much more of a common story, but I still find it so interesting how it's kind of what we started with like the checked boxes and then going, yeah, but what else is there? And I think that with so my professional background is in nursing. That's where I started. And it's interesting with the brand voice stuff that I do. It's this interesting blend of kind of what people intuitively know about their brand voice, and they know when something sounds the way they want it to, and they know when something sounds off, but they can't always articulate why it either is right or off. And it reminds me of the like conversations we'd have in nursing around like that, spidey senses, right? When you're just like, something is off with this patient, with this situation, with like whatever it is, you have this intuitive hit that you're like, no, this isn't good. Like I need to double check, or I need to get another, like you have that sense. And what's really interesting is that in both of those, the intuition is usually spot on and it's usually a great signal, but it only takes you so far, because at some point I have to sit down as a nurse and actually document, like, why did I intervene with this patient? Or why did I, have the doctor come over for another look? You have to be able to document it and say, like, what were you noticing that made you think, you know what, this needs extra attention? And in nursing, it's often, comes down to you kind of revisiting it and going, I did notice his oxygen level was a bit low and he was kind of like a little, so you end up replaying what the things were that you noticed. But in brand voice, what I see a lot in kind of the industry is that people help business owners kind of tune into that intuition, but then that's kind of where they leave them, where they're like, great, now you know what your brand voice is, you know how to feel into it maybe yourself, but it's really hard to replicate and it's really hard to scale. So if you're the only one that like knows what it's supposed to sound like, you have a really hard time delegating it to someone. If you were ever to bring on a copywriter, a marketer, a social media manager, you can't really tell them like, that reply to that post was wrong, but I don't know why, and I don't know how to tell you to do it better next time.
Right. It's so true. So true.
Yeah. And that's what I see so often in especially like solopreneur or kind of dual founded businesses, the burnout is so fast because it's like we put everything into this and then you're expected to keep up this kind of momentum, this kind of performance. You're maybe told to bring someone on, but you're not really given any direction as to how to like download your brain into this other person.
Yeah, right.
So the work that I do meets that in the middle and goes like, okay, let's get really clear on what you already know about your brand voice, and then let's document it. So
yeah, I love it.
Like Irene, your mention of linguistics really caught my ear, because what I basically use is like linguistic frameworks to help people articulate what it is about their voice, right? We look at like sentence lengths, we look at word choice, we look at their tone, we look at like their punctuation choices. So it's all of those different things that then we can document that for them, and then they can write more easily as themselves, or they can delegate it. So
well, I love too what you're saying, because paying attention to our intuitive senses and the signs and synchronicities that I know from what I've heard, we got more to share. The language of those, because it's not the same for everybody, and we all have a different way of interpreting and understanding what's coming through, what shows up, and how to ask and how to articulate even that, and then how do we apply it to our life professionally and personally, right? So I think that's really, really great. And I love that you pointed out too, from the nursing perspective, there's wisdom of the life that we live that comes through. There are things that we learn, and we blend that with those intuitive pieces, those messages that come through, and that's where the answers really end up lying. And I love that. That's how we find them. So really glad you shared that. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I have to go back because I made the comment about the candle, and then I'm like, wait, because like Irene has a candle. I'm so sorry. I was like, I don't like candles, and I'm like, oh my God, you have a candle down there, and I didn't mean it that way.
It's a black candle, so it's okay.
But I was just like, I'm not the one, the stereotype of let's all dress in a robe and sit around it. And it's sometimes the very gentle. And that's my point, that I don't come at any of the spiritual components and all the experiences from that super soft, gentle, tender, sometimes, but I also come at it from this big, rebellious, vivacious place, right? So anyway, but then it hit me what I'd said, and I'm like, oh my God, way to go. Insert foot in mouth. But anyway. So anyways, it's okay to call ourselves out. Let's just say it. That's important. Not too many people seem to do that, and I think we should. So anyways, Taiza.
I think it's awesome that you mentioned the candle so she could mention it was a black candle. And I love like, black or like I love the combinations we've got going on, because it's like the black with this light. She's in Spain, like that's so mythic. And then we've got the Christmas, and we got the Phoenix, and we have like bare bones and mermaid.
I love it.
I am not sure what to say right now, because I really am like at the beginning of my journey. I'm just really excited, and I'm excited.
So what led you to go this direction? What kind of nudged you to go the direction that you're going in now?
Because my soul said so, and I was like, yeah, let's do it.
So what was it about your soul? What did you feel? What moment, or do you remember a specific moment that you're like, I need to go do this?
It was really like Puerto Rico. I know that like I mentioned it already, but like it really brought something to life. And it was like this disparity between everything I wanted and the shitstorm that I've accepted for in my life, and thinking that was the only option. Like that was my only choice. And the amount of shadow work, like in the darkness, I really had to peer into my own soul to realize I did it all. I did it all to myself. Like all of the fuckery in my life, I created that. Like I am the genesis of everything in my life. And it was incredibly confronting. Like when you say holding yourself accountable, or like however, like whatever branding would go with that sentiment, like however it gets communicated so people really get it. Like the amount of responsibility, but also because I'm a perfectionist, like there's a lot of self-hate that came with that. Like really learning to love myself unconditionally has been everything. And
it totally right? fucking is. Yeah, because you can only love someone else or your business for that matter and help people enough as much as you love yourself.
Well, and I can help
that takes
people,
facing
I love myself big.
I like hearing that. Yeah, you have to find that. And so who you are, understanding who you are, that's when the brand voice is going to be able to come through. But doing that deep, dark work, that's what we have to face, because we create it. We have a choice. I had this conversation on my podcast that will be come out before your guys's. But it is choice yet to make. And
it is a choice.
it's sometimes they're hard choices. Or what I was saying is I called myself out because I was like, oh, way to go, JC. But it's like calling yourself on the red carpet, for that matter. It's like, and then also should point out in that too, that here I kind of overthought it, and y'all are like, no, look, it's a black candle, or oh no, that's great, I'm glad you brought that up and you called yourself out and she got to mention it was a black candle. So there actually was this beautiful piece to it, and me over here, I let my little ADHD brain kick in, and I was overthinking it. I was like, I'm so sorry. And the tendency to over apologize, because I know I do that. That's one of my darker pieces, right? From trauma and crap like that, right? So those are great things to point out, and just to embrace and understand that, we can definitely be creating our own fuckery, and it's not always a great time. Sometimes it's a party, and other times you're like, oh, hell.
I think that is the other part that I want to mention is it doesn't all have to be like, it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be arduous. It doesn't have to be torturous. And I think that's the beauty of being able to hire people in whatever capacity that have passed through the way before. Like, I've started working with a grief coach, and I'm so excited because I have so much grief. And like, that's not something we usually talk about, but like, that's her genius. And she's walked that path. Like, her son died. And so for me to be able to go, like, she fills me with joy. So the idea of being able to transcend my grief by walking the path with her with joy is like a heaven sent. Like, and that's really all I have.
That's okay. And that's totally fine, because that will inspire the right people that hear this. And because I'm so focused on everything being aligned, these videos, these podcast recordings, they go out to the right people. The right people find those little snippets in the show that they need to hear. They end up being signs for other people. I guarantee it.
That's awesome.
So what you say is perfect.
Taiza, what you just said about like, it doesn't have to be hard or torturous, I think that is like a huge lesson that I've been learning in life and in business. Like I said, I mean, business is like a weird reflection of everything else in your life. But yeah, just the idea that like, well, I haven't suffered enough to be successful is like such a fucked up way to look at this. And it's like, what plan? Anyways, it doesn't have to be that hard. And I totally agree and love that you highlighted that.
Absolutely. See?
Yes.
Have to do it, and then they show up. Okay, Irene, and can you say it again in your mother's tongue, because it's so pretty?
I think. Oh no,
she's muted. Oh no, we didn't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yes.
Yes. So the Spanish pronunciation is Irene, but again, I've lived in so many different countries that I'm more than comfortable with Irene, or really any pronunciation whatsoever. And everything you've just said is so interesting. I work with Jungian psychology that looks into the shadow a lot, and synchronicities, and also like Eastern spirituality, the yoga and the Tantra, and Latin American spirituality, the shamanism, integrating all that. And when you realize that as within, so without, right? That's like one of the basic spiritual laws of the universe, and a basic tenet of Hermeticism, which is like the basics of Western spirituality, occultism. We all have an inner sadist and an inner masochist. And when we own those sides of ourselves, we realize that we can alchemize all the shit into gold and enjoy the shit show, even turn the shit show into a party. And there's really nothing we cannot enjoy, because our true nature, like yoga and tantra teach, is Sat Chit Ananda, just pure, blissful love, loving awareness. So yeah, that's what I focus on. And for me, it was really fundamental, because again, I was suicidal. That was trauma that was in my family heritage, and I sort of karmically inherited and grew up with. suicide in my family history, and I attempted suicide as well when I was 25. So I didn't have the will to live. I had to find it for myself. And along that journey, I found this out, right? That when we do the inner work, the outer reality changes accordingly. And then crazy synchronicities start showing up. And that's how, you manifest money out of nowhere. And how, I traveled across the ocean to build a new life. And I found a guy that had the same patterns as my ex, because I was carrying the trauma within me. But also, like, there's wisdom in the trauma. So when we overcome those challenges, at the other side of it, there's a huge reward. And just recently, like, I've been having so many upgrades in my life, because the inner work is the best kind of work that you can do. And it was this funny thing about the cat. I had a housemate. I'm repelling the wrong people as well. I had a housemate, and we were getting along great until at some point our energies started to diverge, and it started to feel icky. And I didn't want to kick her out. I didn't want it to be rough. I wanted to be a smooth transition out of each other's lives. But it takes a lot of patience and skill in communication, right, to be able to navigate that. And bottom line is that she moves out with her cat, because there was a cat and a dog at home, and I love cats. Like, they're my spirit animal. The phoenix as well, but I feel like I'm a cat. Every time I take ayahuasca here in Brazil, it's a big spiritual practice, shamanic practice. I feel like I'm literally a cat. So I was calling another cat in, but I didn't want to make any effort, because again, life doesn't have to be hard, it gets to be easy. And just yesterday, when I walked in from the street into my house, there was a cat that somehow climbed the wall. I live in a house with a courtyard, an open courtyard, but it's not so easy for the cats to get in. And when I walked into my house, there was a cat meowing, appearing out of nowhere. And yeah, for me, that was yet another confirmation of the power of our minds.
Yes.
That when we set ourselves in the frequency of happiness, of our desires, everything really is possible.
It is. It's absolutely, I asked this week for some gifts, if you will, just a gift. I'm like, just something. I wasn't even specific, which normally I'm all about being specific. And I teach my clients that. But this week, knowing that my son was leaving, I said, I just need some gifts. I just need some support from the universe to get through it. Because it's really, I say this week, y'all, this happened back in December, but anyway, but it was hard. And knowing that I had a full day today with clients and interviews and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, yesterday I still have a headache from it, right? When you cry all day, it's hard. Anybody that's had the youngest one, especially, leave the nest is difficult. And the signs that showed up as he got ready to pull out, are one of our last hugs and this, that, or the other were, they were the easy things of coming in numbers, right? So, it was literally 3:33 in the morning when he was getting ready to leave, but he's hugging me and I look at the clock and I'm like, it's 3:33. And I knew he's going to be okay. We're being supported. And, there were other things like that happened before he left. And then throughout the day, the clients and different people that I know that randomly, not expecting me to, I wasn't expecting this. I'm like, why would they even tell me this? But they're like, we just love you. You're so loved, JC. I mean, it was just a constant flood of it. And of course, it kind of made me cry more, but yet it also made me go, okay, those weren't just from these random people. There are some of them are just acquaintances. Why would they tell me that? It was that gift and that support. So it's there if we pay attention to it. We have to be aware of it. We absolutely have to be aware of it. Oh my gosh, such beautiful conversations. And these were really very deep today. There was a lot here today. I'm so honored that you guys sat here and shared these things with us and with my audience and my community. I want to thank you for that. But I also want to go back around and give you guys a chance, of course, in the show notes, there will be links so you can find everybody's website, or if they've got that done and ready or whatever's going on, and social media links, wherever you guys want to send them. I know that I'll have those links from you and we'll put them in the show notes. But anything that you want to share now as we get ready to wrap up, or offer to people real quick, let's do that. So I'm going to pass the baton back around to Julia, and we'll kind of go around the table again. So Julia.
Sure. Yeah. I'm most active on Facebook, and then I think my website would probably be the best place to go, juliamichelleagency.com. And I actually just made a new kind of, I guess, freebie lead magnet, whatever you want to call it. But I was realizing that one of the things that just irks me the most about brand voice is all the fucking rules that we're supposed to follow. And so I made a list of, I'm calling it 23 or so. I think right now I don't know, there's 23-ish. I lost track, and sometimes I take one out or add one or whatever. But there's 23 ways that you can break the rules and make your own in your brain voice. So it kind of gives you a framework of, rather than just the be yourself, it gives you some ideas of what can that look like? How can you actually make something that is unique to you? So if you want to just kind of get some ideas, that's available. You just scroll down to the bottom of my website, and I'll trade you your email address for the list.
Love it. Yeah, because it's true. We can break the rules, but a lot of people are like, but I don't know where to start. How do I break them? So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's some structure to it.
One of my mentors that I've worked with, Justin Blackman, he's like, a world-class brand voice guy. And one of his favorite sayings is that unique doesn't mean good. And that's very true. For a number of things, but also for brand voice, where you're like, well, I mean, that's different, but is it good? You want to have it be unique and good.
Got to be clear.
Right?
Yes.
So it's hitting the sweet spot. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Taiza.
Amazing. So I am just starting this. This was an inspiration that came up this morning that I was like, this is the best idea. I'm really excited, and it's really on fire for me. It's just there. Sometimes I have to push myself for action. This is pushing, this is already in action. I want to put together a symposium for finance. So I am very woo, and most of my business is I do tarot reading, stuff like that. But I do have a background in finance, and I felt like I abandoned it, but I loved it. It was a passion. So it's I know a lot about the stock market in the US. I know it's an international audience, so it's I don't know how things trade outside. But financial literacy is something that a lot of feminine entrepreneurs fear. And I want to put together a symposium, and it should be, my plan is the end of January, beginning of February. So by the time this gets released, that should be ironed out, and I'll be promoting it. So that's...
Girl, now, and this is just coming through for me. And if it doesn't hit for you, okay. But what came through for me is that you need to focus on those that are the female entrepreneurs that are the woo. They're the spiritual, because it's, when we look at, I've run businesses for a long time, but when we look at businesses, or we look at the finances, and we're so ingrained in our spiritual woo, this feels so grounded and so factual, it can be a little difficult to want to deal with it. So those might be great people to
That's a
focus
really
on.
good idea, because it's when you're reading tarot cards, you don't think about your IRA. You don't.
Yeah, no. And the thing of it is too, is you don't want to just go, let me read my cards and see how things are going to pan out. That's okay, but you better have a plan too. And so how does it work together?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great combo.
Excellent. Okay, Irene.
So I have a bunch of online courses on Tantra, Hermeticism, inner alchemy based on Jungian psychology. And right now, I'm releasing a new course on magic. Magic defined as the science and art of making changing your life in accordance with your will, with your true desires, with your true self. So I am active on social media. I have a free masterclass that's already uploaded on YouTube. I'm putting together a new website to host this new course that's called Your Alchemical Mastery. And the masterclass explains the basics of white magic, which is manifestation, black magic, which is basically shadow work, and red magic, which is basically Tantra. All building it up to golden magic, which is in a way related to sex magic, a big taboo in society, but actually everything is sexual in a way, in the sense that sexual energy is vital energy. So how we manage our vitality, our libido, in the bioenergetic sense of the term, our zest for life, our lust for life, is fundamental as for how we deal with anything in our personal life, professional life, business, finances, everything. So that's going to be part of the online course I'm launching. The free masterclass is out already, and it's going to be a 13-week journey. There's going to be more information in the links.
Oh, excellent. Love that. And sexuality is creativity. So when we practice sex magic, certain forms of, there's so many different, I used to study that. So there's a lot of different aspects of it. But there are some really beautiful aspects of that in transcendent lovemaking. Oh my gosh. So we could have a whole different conversation.
That reminds me of, I think it's Esther Perel who talks about like eroticism in terms of kind of what you were saying, Irene, where it's like your curiosity and creativity. And like, yeah, it obviously has a place in sex, but it also has a place in a lot of different areas.
Yes. Because our sexual energy is not just about sex, right? Not at all. It has to do with creativity, and manifestation, for that matter, is just a very different energy. One of the things I used to talk about is think of one of your most famous, whoever it might be, that's the rock star, the whoever, but when they're on stage, they exude sexual energy. And really what it is it's attracting you to watch them, to listen. It doesn't need to be that they're sexy in the way that we normally think of it. So it's just this whole different energy. It works in a lot of ways. So it's really cool. Interesting. It's fascinating that you brought it up, Irene. I love that. So as we are winding up here, if you guys have not joined the Rebel Soul Fuckery community, all of it is free. So if you want to hang out and have experiences like this, make sure that you do that. It is rebelsoulfuckery.com. Of course, I have a VIP level. Oh my gosh, we do a dream circle, we do a healing circle, we do a manifestation circle. There's really a lot of cool stuff that we start to dive in to that piece of it with the VIPs. And of course, I work one-on-one with people to really dive in. As I said earlier, when you're feeling that need to, you've checked the boxes and you still have ambition and you're like, there's got to be more, something's missing. And really want to dive into that and merge all the signs and synchronicities in your dream work. And what does that dream mean? All that good stuff. So amazing, amazing stuff. Thank you guys so much for sitting here with me today and sharing with my community and coming together as such a beautiful energy in our circle around my table today. I appreciate you all three.
Thank you, Daisy, and everybody else. It's been a pleasure. Great pleasure.
All right, everybody. So we're going to sign off for today. Go out and stir up a little good fuckery.